They soar gracefully through the skies of Southern California. Wildlife who make their home in our state, on our coastline, at our beaches, and in our parks. The wildlife that depends upon a healthy ecosystem is all around us, especially here in Huntington Beach. As our population continues to grow, the fragile balance between nature and man causes a disconnect for many creatures that call the sky, water, and land their home. One substance that has assisted with this disconnect over time and wreaked havoc on wildlife is oil. The history of oil in Huntington Beach goes back nearly 100 years. The oil boom of the 1920s and the massive oil field production that followed caused enormous growth in Huntington Beach. As a matter of fact, the city was the largest source of oil and oil-enriched production in California during that time. Oil wells, rigs, and platforms were everywhere. And from the 1920s through the 40s, Huntington Beach became one of the fastest-growing cities in the United States. Oil was here to stay. People moved into Huntington Beach by the thousands during the 1950s, resulting in the first wave of the reduction of oil fields. Ironically, it was this combination of people and oil colliding which caused the greatest threat to wildlife. Since 1971, there have been more than 80 oil spills along the Pacific coast, endangering the survival of thousands of habitats. In 1990, a major spill occurred when the anchor of an American trader oil tanker crushed a hole in the ship's hull, resulting in the spill of more than 400,000 gallons of Alaskan crude oil directly into the waters of Huntington Beach and Newport Beach. This created a disaster for more than 4,000 animals, not to mention a blow to the pristine coastline.
February 7th, 1990, the American trader oil spill happened. And this is right on the heels of the big oil spill, Valdez, up in Alaska. So of course oh my God, I'm gonna go, I have to go help you guys. So we go out to the beach, and a lot of oil hadn't come up yet, but it was coming up. It was rolling up on the beaches, it was getting pretty black. There was really no control. You know, they said, oh, you want to go help pick up birds? Yeah, sure. You know, here's some boots, here's some gloves, and they let us go, and we were picking up these oil birds.
We saw firsthand the negative impacts of something really catastrophic, because we had oil in our marsh. We had people in the white suits with the cleanup gear out there tromping around in our wetlands. So that was a scary time for us.
For whatever reason, it created such a huge impact, and the activities, we didn't, but the activity itself got so much press, and the Office of Oil Spill Response was formed at that time, and it's gone from there.
We started talking after a few days, gee, we really need a permanent place to take these animals. Because at first we were taking them to All Creatures Care Cottage, a veterinary hospital in Costa Mesa. And then we were able to set up, it was the junior lifeguard station. They came and they offered that, but that was a building that didn't have any heat or warm water, and we realized we needed both of that if we were going to try to get the oil off the birds.
Today, the Wetlands and Wildlife Care Center in Huntington Beach is part of a network of emergency facilities that have been established in part as a reaction to oil spills and other disasters along the coast. These centers are located as far south as SeaWorld and are also found in Huntington Beach, San Pedro, and continue up the coast to Humboldt. All are equally equipped to offer emergency services when spills occur.
Now that we have a permanent facility, our average release rate for oil spills is 65% and sometimes higher.
The Wetlands Care Center and the Huntington Beach Wetlands Conservancy work in concert on the oversight and maintenance of the local habitat and the ongoing efforts of the rehabilitation of the wetlands.
As a community group, a volunteer-based group, to actually own such an important piece of the environment, it is really something special. You know, we feel very close to it, and we're down there all the time watching out for it. And it's really become a cause of our lives, those of us that have been with the organization all these years.
Sheila Eberly, a Wetlands and Wildlife Care Center technician, knows oil and understands its relationship to birds very well. Her experience includes rehabilitating wildlife who have encountered ocean debris, oil, and fishing hooks. The center is dependent upon 2 paid staff members who are supported by more than 100 volunteers per month. Volunteers with varying levels of experience answer to the often overwhelming demands at one of the largest facilities of its kind in California, dedicated solely to wildlife care.
It's impossible to run a facility like this without the dedicated volunteers that come in here. And these people are just incredibly dedicated, hardworking people.
Most of the people that come in are animal lovers, and so that's, you know, they come with a passion for animals, and, you know, anybody who's willing to work for free and get down and dirty and, you know, just, you know, help us out doing anything and everything is a great volunteer. So that's what we look for in a volunteer.
Really busy. Always on your feet, 4 to 6 hours of butt busting. We do a lot of picking up, cleaning, mostly cleaning, food preparation, and we do some handling of the animals to give them medicine and the like. It only takes 1 year to figure out how to do this.
So usually it goes laundry and dishes, and then cage cleaning. We always have lots of dirty cages that need to be cleaned inside and out. And also food preparation is another thing that, that they'll start learning how to do. And then from there, they'll assist the supervisor or the senior volunteer in handling the animals so that the supervisor or senior volunteer can tube feed the animals, where they take a tube down into the stomach and they force water so that they are getting enough hydration and nutrition. From senior volunteer, you can do a number of things as far as helping with examinations. There's a number of things that we do, and then if you take a class, you can become a supervisor.
This is all part of what we do here. We clean, we nurture, we hand feed, we do the things we have to do. And at the end of the day, the one thing that's common to all of us is we all smell alike.
To balance the never-ending workload, college interns, such as Caitlin Sampson, a veterinary technician from Scranton, Pennsylvania, fulfill their mandatory 200 hours of required work at the Huntington Beach facility.
It's been a great experience. I love it here. I can't wait to come back and just volunteer. It's been excellent. The people here are phenomenal to teach you anything that you need to know. They're always willing to take a second out of their day and let you hold an animal, let you take care of an animal. It's just been an overall great experience.
With the interns, a lot of them come in with a lot of knowledge already, a lot of schooling already, so they have a lot of education, and so they can help us, you know, maybe some of us that don't have as much formal education, help us kind of understand things at a different level.
Of the more than 3,500 animals that are brought to the center annually, there are hundreds of different species. Ducks and shorebirds, however, are the most frequent visitors to the center.
Thank you guys so much.
Well, we get quite a few things that come through our doors. We get a variety of different seabirds, pelicans, common murres, different types of loons. We also get the possums, raccoons, and squirrels as well. So It's always a gamble what's going to be coming through our doors each time we open them. We get issues with people using rat poisons to control pests in their own yards, so we'll get secondary poisoning. We also get animals that have been hit by cars or sometimes abused by the public. But we also get a lot of seabirds that are young and not good at fishing quite yet, so we'll get some underweight animals. We'll also get a lot of animals that are injured through a lot of the different debris that end up in the ocean from the beaches.
These guys were found as, I believe they were about 2 weeks old. They were found tied up in a plastic bag in the gutter. A citizen found them and had no idea what to do, and basically went to all of his neighbors and friends until he found a place where they could receive care, and that would be us. So they came in pretty wretched condition, but they're doing great now. They have a wonderful prognosis, and they have every chance for a long, healthy life in the wild once they've reached the age of release. So this makes kind of a very broad understanding of humanity, because, you know, there's the people who are on the end of being very callous or cruel, and then there's the people who, in my eyes, make up for it, kind of balancing the scales of humanity. So it's great work, and it's absolutely wonderful to see any of these animals be released.
It is absolutely the payday, that release, because, you know, we see a lot of horrific things that come in. We might see them coming in with oiled feathers and fur. We see them shot with guns. We've seen them shot with arrows, hit by cars, stabbed by knives, or orphaned, cut out of trees, you know, injured, broken wings. And it gets on you after a while when you see all these terrible things coming in, and then when you get to go out and take that little guy that was so helpless and so gone, he wouldn't have had a life without us, and we get to let him go back into the wild. There's nothing you can say. There's nothing in the world, there's no words to describe how that feels. I mean, I'm gonna cry right now. I mean, I really could. And it does move you. That's what it's all about. These are happy tears.
For volunteer Jamie Pavcat, it's a happy day at the center. And an even better day for a snowy egret who has gained enough weight to win its release back into the wild. Jamie reviews paperwork, double-checks the egret's weight, and unbands and prepares it for the trip.
His band is off, he goes back in. And next stop for him is out in the wild.
The release is the ultimate satisfaction and reward volunteers receive after weeks, sometimes months, of devotion and care for these animals.
What's hard for these guys when they leave the nest is, in the real world, they have to catch fish, and they're used to being dropped right in front of them. You know, they pick it up. You have to catch a live fish now squirming around, and it's a skill. It takes a while. So that's something we could do for them at the Wildlife Center.
Every time we release a bird, it's a victory for us to really undo some of the damage that we see from the impact of civilization. For example, fish hooks on pelicans' beaks and nets that get caught up in seabirds and so forth. So it's really rewarding.
For one such pelican, named Nigel, a release seems far from certain. A rare white American pelican, this bird was rescued after a fishing line accident in Irvine. Nigel's mishap presents an enormous challenge. There are questions as to whether he will ever feed independently again.
And I'm going to give him a little vitamin called C-Tab and then some water because he's not able to drink any water on his own.
This lack of independence, coupled with certain weight loss, would eventually cause his ultimate death.
Nigel is an American white pelican, and it's very tragic. We get so many fishing line injuries, and she came in with her beak completely bent down and contorted. We have those pictures, and it was just horrific. And the staff called me and they go, I don't know if there's anything we can do. And I said, you know, I don't know if there is either, but we can give it a try.
Well, he had the mandible fracture because there was a fishing hook stuck at the tip of the mandible, and it was the fishing line was attached to the right shoulder, so the mandible was being twisted toward the right shoulder, and the tip of it was black and dead and necrotic. So we had to, number one, align the mandible in the correct position so it lined up with the maxilla. And we also had to deal with the necrosis, the dead tissue at the tip of the beak. So we put him under anesthesia and we debrided, or we took off some of the dead skin at the end, and we created an external fixation device. We put screws in the right side of the mandible and a material called bone cement, which is like silly putty that turns hard when it's cooled off. And that was able to align the mandible in a straight, correct position. And then we were able to repair some of the dead tissue and close up some of the holes that were left.
Although the surgery was a success, Nigel's return to his natural habitat is still a question mark. A first-of-its-kind surgery is welcomed, but also carries with it anxiety and stress for Nigel. Another concern is that the process won't heal as desired, which would put Nigel's future in jeopardy. For the staff and many volunteers who have treated and cared for the pelican, the delicate balance begins between professional nursing and personal attachment.
It's hard not to get attached and so dedicated to what you're doing when you come in and see the animals what way they are when they come through the door and then the way they are once they leave our facility. It really is a feeling that's indescribable and is different for each of us.
Nigel is a big pelican that's going to cost a lot. It's going to cost us a lot to just feed this bird.
And food is at the heart of the expenditures facing the Wetlands and Wildlife Center on a monthly basis. Up to 300 meals are prepared and served each day, an amount that can easily double when hit with a crisis. Pelicans, as an example, can eat up to 4 pounds of fish per day, which can carry a weekly cost between $1,200 and $1,500. The stress on finances is additionally highlighted by the necessary medications, x-rays, medical procedures, and utility bills that can reach up to $2,000 per month.
It is not cheap running this facility. Yeah, it's running us anywhere from $10,000 to $12,000 every single month. And it's not like we can charge the hummingbird or the pelican that's coming in the door and said, well, let me give you an estimate for your cost of care. It's going to be this. They don't have anything. They actually belong to all of us. Every one of us, we could be good stewards to the environment. We're rescuing the animal, and if they give us just a little donation, it's going to go a long way that we can care for that animal. And we're so appreciative to everyone that does that.
The The cost for Nigel the pelican's recovery has skyrocketed into the many thousands of dollars. Due to the severity of his accident, part of Nigel's lower mandible tissue was beginning to rot away weeks after the initial surgery. Yet another surgery was successfully performed, and Nigel was transferred to the outside flight enclosure at the center, where the importance of developing independent eating habits is stressed. Oxygen is secured into the smelt for buoyancy, so the new shortened mandible would not deter Nigel from learning to eat on his own.
Next step would be, after this, to get water out here for her, so that we can make sure that she's waterproof and that she can eat well on her own. She's doing very well with this surgery. They are talking about maybe having another surgery for her, but it will really just depend on what the surgeon says and how she does with self-feeding and waterproofing.
Since its inception, the Wetlands and Wildlife Center has struggled at times just to keep its doors open. But as the employees and interns maintain, it's all about the animals.
It shows you what a struggle it is to keep a place like this going, because we're not for-profit. We can't charge people for bringing their animals in, and they're bringing them in, and we're asking for a donation, and they give us something, but they don't realize how really expensive it is to go through that process.
In addition to the requests for donations from individuals and businesses, the process for generating hope for more funding may include a regional approach.
So we do about 4,000 animals a year come through here. So it costs us about $10,000 a month.
It's very competitive for donation money, especially now in this economy. It's much more difficult than it was, say, 5 years ago. But we do the best we can with it. We keep the local media alerted whenever something special arises. It's our hope now that the County of Orange will finally come on board and help us to defray some of these costs. We've been providing care for the animals of Orange County almost continuously for 40 years, and we really think it's about time that we kind of came on board with that. And for that, we would continue giving them the best possible medical care and rehab care for the wildlife, as we have always done.
This facility helps give these guys a chance in their populations to thrive in an otherwise urban and developed area. So they really do help these guys out a lot, and it's real important that we get funding to stay alive and to help these guys continue to flourish.
On many occasions, the center has held open houses for the public to encourage donations, volunteerism, awareness, and an opportunity to adopt a wild animal. Nigel was at the top of the list to be adopted.
When I came here today, I already knew that I would be making a donation, and I knew that it would be one of the animals here, but I wanted it to be a specific animal that I knew that I would be in touch with and be able to follow. And then I found out about Nigel's story, about how this pelican had been found in the Irvine area with a hook in his mouth and a disfigured bill, not being able to groom himself, be able to eat, and that this money that I have donated will go to his care. And they have assured me that they will keep me in touch as to his progress on his recovery.
Today will be a successful day at the center. After months of care, including 4 surgeries, Nigelina is going home, back to where she was originally found.
So I just wondered, can we flip her?
So we're at the end of our journey here with At first we thought Nigel, but finding out our little Nigel is now our Nigelina. We came in with the severe pouch injury. The pouch itself, this bottom mandible, was completely twisted to the side, and the pouch itself had a nice big tear in there. And what we did was we had a surgeon come in and apply a prosthesis to extend out the crooked bill. And then once that was extended out and we sewed up the pouch, everything is all healed up now. So we're gonna go ahead and release her today.
And Jelly's finally getting to be released.
Susan's like, had enough of this video thing.
I have to call and push
The main species.
Nigelina the pelican sees the daylight and takes her first tentative steps towards freedom. It was never learned why she was named in the first place, as the center has a policy of not becoming attached to the wild they care for. And her delaying the inevitable here was possibly a silent thank you for making the exception. Today was a good day, particularly for the volunteers who rescued Nigelina.
Look at you, so happy. Long, hard road.
Your baby just went to nest. So yeah, it's just, it makes up for all the ones that we can't release, that have to be, that die. You know.
It makes up for all the sweaty hours with pelican lice all over you and been feeding and washing and doing laundry, and then this, 10 minutes makes it all worth it.
emotional attachment. It's just that, oh my gosh, it happened. Finally, this day came 3.5 months later, and it was a success. As you know, we had a lot of ups and downs with that bird, not knowing if it was going to be successful or not. And our goal all along, we would have never put her through any of these surgeries if we didn't want to be able to give her a second chance at life and be able to release her. And we did. We did that today. Every day we wake up and face something similar. Whether it's Nigel, that was a happy day, and we'd like to have a lot more, but we have an awful lot in care right now, and we want to keep going every day. This is what we want to be able to do.
There will be another Nigelina someday, and Huntington Beach's Wetlands and Wildlife Center will be there again to assist.